All right, everybody, it's almost agreement time. Today I've got Kristi Kristy. She's currently the chair of the school board and running to continue to hold the seat in seat 9 for Knox County Schools. So we're almost in agreement at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can go to our website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, I've got my election cheat sheet, which when you go find Kristi Kristy on the cheat sheet, it's going to have a link to this episode that we're doing right now. Put a link to her webpage as well as everybody else that's running in District 9 and across the county. While you're in there as well, it's got KGIS and Election Commission, so you can make sure you're in the right district. I know they did some redesign precincts. It's supposed to go through this week, next week, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so things are moving. This is a way to double check, make sure you're registered, make sure you know what precinct and what your voting location is, stuff like that. And go to your favorite podcast provider. Follow us on there, please. Give us a 5-star review. Tell your friends about us, that kind of stuff. The more people know, the more people get to know their candidates, and that's what we're trying to do here. So, intro music's going to finish its thing, and then me and Miss Kristi Kristy are going to chat. All right, Kristi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's been a little bit since we've gotten together.
Yeah.
Many things happening. Many things going on. Many things. So, I don't know. Let's try to do this as standalone as possible so people that didn't catch you last time. Let's start with the brief history of Kristi Kristy, how you got into politics in the first place, that kind of thing.
Well, basically started as just an engaged, involved mom. Have triplets that went all through South Knoxville schools and was involved at every level in the PTAs there at Bonnie Kate, Southwell Middle, and Southwell High, and just love serving my community. Want all of the kids to have the same great experience my own children had in Knox County schools, and specifically South Knox County schools. So here I am.
Okay, and so that, and so I mean, like usually I follow that with why this seat, why now, but it's kind of an easy answer when you're running to keep it.
Right.
And so, I don't know, I guess to me it's like, so we get, it's fun to have a little bit of history to talk about, and then what we want to do moving forward kind of right. deal. And so let's start with, I don't know, let's go back to the last 3.5 years of being on school board. And I don't know, what are some highlights for you, some things that that the school board did at large, and then specifically things that you kind of spearheaded that you're proud of?
Well, teacher raises, we've made some progress there, still not enough, and staff raises. Of course, we just hired a new superintendent, which is pretty much the Super Bowl for a school board. Really excited about that, and Dr. Reiswick and some of his ideas and plans moving forward. We've started a great CTE initiative with Forward Next Generation Learning. We've had a lot of good happening in the schools in spite of COVID. But COVID did kind of slow us down the last couple of years with progress.
Right. Okay, so, because, like, for me, it's a little tough because, like, I was a very happily ignorant parent as far as the things that were going on until about 2 years ago when we started doing the podcast, started really digging into this stuff. And so, like, as much as I want to go into the history and pick apart parts and pieces, I wasn't really paying attention when they were happening. Yeah. And so let's move forward. So, we're running for re-election.
Right.
We want to keep the seat. Obviously, there's something you haven't finished yet.
Right.
So what's the top of the list of things that you feel like need finishing or need at least starting that you didn't get to start so far?
Well, I would like to help support our new superintendent. That's probably my biggest goal coming in. I look forward to working with him and hope I get to continue working with him. I think he has a lot of good ideas and vision for the district, and I guess that would be top on my list.
Okay.
Like I said, I love South.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt there.
Yeah.
So let's stick on the superintendent conversation because we get both sides of it here. We get the where it started and how we got to this superintendent, as well as your hopes and goals to work with Mr. Reiswick, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yep.
It's a fun spelling. Anyway, so let's talk about the decision process because to me, watching watching the process seemed a little bit that's what I'm looking for, maybe disjointed. Like I felt like there was a big push to make it a big nationwide search. Am I correct in my understanding that the school board superintendent for Knox County Schools is the highest paid government employee in the county?
I would say so. I would,
because it's that or the chief medical examiner. It's one of those two,
right?
That are.
I would think it would be
the two highest paid positions are non-elected positions. I know that part, and I'm pretty sure superintendents. And so there was a big push that we did the national search. We brought in the whatever the name of the group was to help us do the search, but then we re-land on a guy that was essentially kind of already lined up for it back when Bob Thomas had it. He ran against, not ran against, it was an election, but he was in the running against Bob Thomas. And so to me, it almost felt like we put on a show to say that we were looking around, but we kind of already had a guy lined up.
Yeah, well, I think you have to take into account how many districts are looking for superintendents right now.
Right.
Not just here, but here, if you just look around here, we have Blount County, Sevier County. I think Hamlin County just maybe hired one.
Right, just like teachers this year has been. These last couple of years have been pretty attrition too. Right,
and it's not just in Knox County in Tennessee. It's nationwide. Right. So that you're not going to get the candidates when you have so many openings out there that you normally would, and I think that's part of it. So how many total applications, like legitimate applications, and I use that term loosely, just as far as I could have applied, not that I had any right or reason to take the job, but how many applications that were worth looking at did actually come across the table? I would say there were probably maybe, when I first got them, TSBA was right. There is that clear divide. You can kind of see that natural break between who you would consider to be a qualified candidate versus not. I would say maybe 4 to 5 were. Now, a couple dropped out. Right. We had one that was hired before we even got to our final 3. Right,
because I think one of the things for any of our sports fans out there that listen to this is this is a head coach hire. Right. It's the same kind of animal. It's the way the process kind of works out, it all kind of piles on where all the teams are looking to move their coaches around at the same time. And so, there's a balance between trying to wait and find the right person and waiting too long and getting stuck because the right person is getting hired elsewhere as well. Because that's something that I don't think a lot of people, again, to me, I don't think that I got that from watching coverage of it. I think that really just dawned on me just now as we were talking. Yeah. But the idea that there's, this isn't the only place that they've applied. Right. I think that was pretty clear from whomever from Georgia that was the top 3, and then because I'm assuming that's what happened with him.
Well, there were a couple more, because first thing I do when we would get the names would Google them to see, and and you would see that they were top candidates in other places. There was one that was hired in Florida. Actually, in 2 of our applicants were the top 3 for that district in Florida. Right. So, it was a given that one of those probably would be dropping out. Right. So you have to keep in mind that a lot of these people had multiple applications out at different places as well.
Right. And I agree I think that's something that I didn't see in the coverage, at least. Like when, again, and I apologize, there were the 3 and then the one from Georgia that dropped out. Right. The statement was that he dropped out. And now talking about it and thinking about it for a second, now my assumption is, and you may know the truth on this, but my assumption is that he was hired out. Or he got an offer somewhere else that he liked and didn't want to wait and come in second here and lose that offer.
He called me he called me Monday. I think it was Valentine's Day, maybe. I don't know. He called me shortly after the Monday that we were going to interview, maybe. And, he didn't specify, but he led me to believe that he had another job offer. Right. And
again, it's just exploring thought process that I didn't think about, and I think that's something that gets lost before it gets out in conversation, because it's just why didn't we hire him? Well, because he got a job somewhere else before we could. Right. And so there's a little bit to say about some of the process being maybe slower or whatever than that is. Okay. So anyway, we've got the guy. Reswick.
Dr. Reswick.
I'll do it wrong 50 more times before I get it right. But and so, like, what is, so that was the selection, and you voted for him, as I recall. What is it about him, and then what are you most excited about working with him upon? Like, what are some of his things that said, that's the right guy for the job, and these are the things that we want to work on as a school board with the superintendent?
Well, I think he has great ideas as far as career and technical education, or vocational, back when I was in school is what we called it. Those pathways, he's done a lot of work with Ford Next Generation. He's been a key player in getting that initiative started here in our schools. And just he's a creative thinker. I mean, he's an out-of-the-box thinker, but I've also seen him abandon ideas that, maybe you start and look good on paper and then you realize,
right,
this isn't going to work well in the schools. So, I mean, he also was willing to take a step back, and reevaluate,
right.
and some people aren't,
right.
Once you start.
I already said I was doing it. We're going to, don't care.
Yeah,
right.
I don't care. Yeah. So, and I guess with the other applicant, it was, I just worried about the size of the district that she came from and some of the, her ideas. It was hard for me to visualize those in a district our size.
Right. Because there's a difference in trying to implement major changes when the district is significantly larger than smaller. Okay. So, I don't know. There's I don't even want to talk about the math stuff. I really don't.
Yeah. Me neither, but we can if you
feel
want.
It's going to fall apart naturally before anything actually comes in. And I'm kind of lost on this whole, new lawsuit that's going on. I don't understand the point, given that it seems like the thing's falling apart anyway.
Well, I mean, I can speak to what I think the point is as far as that. I think the point is it's more about the ADA laws and how it's interpreted.
Right.
As to whether large numbers of people can be reasonable accommodations. Like,
right, we talked about it at length. The idea of there's the one phrase in there, accommodation. What is it? Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. Reasonable accommodation, that kind of thing. It's such a subjective term. There's so much room for interpretation of that things like this can come as a result of it. And so, again, I think it's one of those issues where we as the public, and even probably some of the government bodies, don't know where they sit in the hierarchy of things. Like, it's really easy. It's like, federal judge can say whatever he wants, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I don't know. I prefer the idea that our school board handles our stuff.
Right.
And then we come after you when there's problems. I also would prefer that we don't have such a large hurdle to start the recall process. The recall process for elected officials is near impossible to even get started, let alone executing it. And so when these two things line up, we get stuck in the situations where we're at, because it should have been, legally speaking, at least, regardless of mask issue, it should have been the school board said we're not doing masks. Go, and then enough parents decide that they're not cool with this, then we start the recall process, and whether that political pressure from the recall process changes minds, or people get recalled and replaced, and then the new body does the thing. That's to me how the system is supposed to work. And this idea that an outside federal judge comes in and just gets to say so, because what's weird to me is, especially right now, like, my day job is taking the mask requirement off in the office and stuff like that. Most of the grocery stores, you don't have to wear them in anymore. All the different loosenings that are happening doesn't matter.
Right.
Has nothing to do with, as long as Greer's doesn't change his mind, we sit where we're sitting, period. And even if the plaintiff family goes in and says, hey, we're good, things are fine, it doesn't mean that Greer has to follow that either. And it's just that weirdness of this particular drives me a little crazy. Anyway, moving on. Don't care. We're moving forward. We're going into the future. This mask thing's going to be over. The pandemic's coming to an end.
Yes.
We have a new superintendent. What are we going to do next year? I've got a thing that I'm working on, but I'll save that till we have the new elected body, because I got to figure out the legals on it. So what's next for you? What's next on the priority list of Kristi Kristy and the new school board moving forward to try to get our schools moving on?
Well, just COVID recovery. We are coming out of a pandemic, and learning has been different this year. Teachings have been different. I've lost 3 teachers in one of my schools alone.
When you say
just
lost,
over there, left for other places.
Okay.
So they, we're we're having teachers leaving the profession or leaving for other districts. Just recovering from all that, and trying to find staff and support personnel and the extra mental health support that hopefully the state will be funding.
Okay, so on that, on the coming out of the recovery stuff, I do want to talk about ESSER stuff here in a second, but one of the things I kind of keep coming back to as I'm talking about different things in government and policy and stuff like that is it's always an incentives game. Everything's about incentives. How do we incentivize the result we want? Obviously, the simple, lazy incentive is always cash. How much do we have to pay you to do good work, or how much do we have to pay to get the best people to come and do the work here? And so, even regardless of the pandemic, the complaint's been from the teachers in general that especially in Knox County, we're below standard starting, maybe not below standard starting pay, but we have a lower starting pay than surrounding counties, at least. And so we are losing a lot of teachers just off the pay front on the front end.
Right.
And with the budget that we have and the way the state funding works previously, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the new funding formula. But the way funding works, how do we bridge that gap? How do we make it, whether it's cash or other things, desirable for teachers? Because, again, Knox County itself is a place people want to live. That part's an easy sales pitch. But it's also getting more expensive just naturally over time. And this teacher pay becomes an issue in that as well. So to you, what is a way that we can recruit more better teachers?
Well, I think pay is, one of the big things. Of course, I think teaching's kind of like nursing. I don't think people just go in it thinking they're going to get rich off teaching. Right. I think we also have to make sure that, we're treating your teachers fairly and not putting too much on their plates. And as far as just the job duties and
because that is a common complaint, is how much other stuff than teaching. What was it? Miss Oakley, I think, when she was on from District 7, was her joke was, when I was teaching, I taught for free. You paid me to do the paperwork, because that's the part I don't want to do. The teaching's the fun part. And then Jennifer Owen said that she subbed yesterday, and as a school board member, she's not allowed to get paid as a sub. Right. That's a weird little rule. I get it, but it's still a weird little rule.
Yeah. Virginia Babb and I also went through the process to sub as well. But that's just, you can't be paid by the school system if you
are the head of the school system. Right. It makes sense.
Yeah, which is fine.
Right. But again, okay, so, in all the budget conversation, I don't know, how much have you got into this new budget formula system thing? Because, we're already working on the 22-23 budget. When does actual budget stuff start?
Soon. It'll be starting.
Because, fiscal year is July, right?
Right. So typically speaking, the superintendent will start meeting with individual board members probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe.
I got to get a hold of Ron.
Yeah.
I got to get Ron in here and talk about the new formula.
Yeah. And he's cautiously optimistic. I've had
some of the very basic stuff that I've seen on it so far is that it should be an increase with the new formula. That we should be getting more in Knox County as our state portion.
Yes.
And then the question is, does the county offset that and take that away, and so it comes out with the same total, or does the county keep at least the same of what they're doing, and then we have a new total sum?
Right. And the other thing is, some of the money we get from the state comes in the form of grants that we've applied for, and they've acted like those grants would be rolled into it. So that additional money we may already be getting. Okay. Right.
Because that's one of my struggles. That's one of my struggles looking at any of these budgets is there's so much, it's not just one income, one outgo. It's like 15 different incomes. Some are teeny tiny and some are massive. And then, but some of the teeny tiny ones have one place they're allowed to go. And so it's not like it's an in and out. It's not, it's not on the total budget thing. I get that for sure. Again, so the goal is to raise teacher pay. How do we go about getting that?
Well, I think we're in a good position this year to do that again. We have done 4% raise increases, salary increases, the last couple of years, which has been good. But I think we are we should be in a good position this year to add to that again. Right. It certainly will be a priority for me when I go in to talk to the superintendent. Okay. And I imagine it will be for most board members, because I think we've all are aware that we're losing teachers, but it's like I said, we've got to do more than money too. We have to do more to help support them in the classroom as well.
Right. Because again, I mean, even though it's not their money per se, but there's other monies that go into other things in the sports league. So on the support things, what are the things that you're hearing from teachers and administrators that is the things that are missing in the support part of the game?
I think we have a lot of behavior issues in our classrooms and schools. And part of that might be COVID related. Part of it, just where we are as a society right now, I mean, I think, again, I apologize for interrupting, but I think one of the things that we don't think about and talk about the reality of is the community at large is a direct impactor of how much schools cost, how much funding we have for schools, but also those behavior and general societal issues that are bleeding into the schools, for lack of a better word. Again, I think Ron said it best, is like in the top 5 counties in the state of Tennessee, the highest expenditure county has the lowest general outcomes and inverse, and then we in Knox County sit right in the middle. Right.
And so, but nationally speaking, there's a lot of data to show that more money does not equal better outcomes.
Right.
And that the actual community surrounding the schools has a higher impact on the outcomes of the schools than direct funding does. And so again, that's one too that I don't know how to bridge that one, because that's one of the weird ones to me, trying to see how everybody lines up between commission, school board, mayor's office, city, state, and all of them piling together, when the reality is we need to figure out how to get them all together, because this neighborhood's going to do more for my kids at school than school board directly funding teachers.
Right.
And so how do we do that?
If only we knew, right? But I do think that the behavior issues and classroom disruptions is probably the number one concern I hear from teachers I know personally.
Okay, so what's what's that's the complaint? How do we how do we fix it?
Well, I mean, we need more support people in schools to help with that. And again, it goes back to paying people, our educational assistants, pay and finding people to do the job. I mean, it's workforce. Everybody's struggling to find employees right now. So
I joked with Jennifer when I was chatting with her the other day. I was joking with her about, I should get my certificate and go out and sub. And I was like, no, I'll probably end up in jail. It'll probably go bad. I just don't. I can get around a group of kids, but if there's not other adults there, I'm going to start yelling and screaming, and then some kid will get, Anyway, child abuse is not cool, people. That's all I'm trying to say.
Not cool.
Okay, so I don't know. Like, I guess to me, it sounds like this new budget is the top item to try to figure out. This new budget with the new superintendent. And so what are some of the goals that the superintendent put forth that you don't like? Or is there anything that he pitched in meetings that you think may be the wrong path that the school board should not support?
Budgetary? Not really.
Not necessarily budgetary.
Not really. I mean, I've not. Nothing. No, not really. Not. I wouldn't say there's been a lot that's came out recently, and as far as new initiatives, I'm trying to think of.
So I'll pitch mine. Ready?
You pitch yours.
Graduate after sophomore year in high school.
Graduate after sophomore year.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do that.
Dump junior seniors. I know it's a state thing. That's why I was saying I got to figure out the legalities.
Yeah. Because the state makes you take four years of high school math.
Well, so do 7, 8, 9, 10.
So. Yeah. But it doesn't count 7 and 8, even if it's high school math. It's
weird. See, that's like that. To me, I think that's the thing, is that I think that for the most part, all the school board people, whether they're current school board or people running for school board right now, I think we agree that the way we do this is not efficient, maybe is the best word I can think of. Right. I think that's why we have such a big voucher discussion and alternate funding methods and all this different stuff going on, is that I think that the product of schools is underachieving our general goals. And I think part of the problem is we don't have a specific goal that we agree on. I think that's one issue that is solvable. I think that one, at least, because like we have the Tennessee grad and we have some of these other different things, but like I still can't get a good straight answer on what a Knox County high school student should be when they graduate. What they should be capable of, where they should be able to go. Like, I mean, college ready, whether it's college ready or technical school ready and all this different stuff. Like, what is a graduate from a high school in the state of Tennessee, specifically Knox County, but at large? Like, I haven't heard a cohesive Like, this is the goal for what we want out of our kids. Because I always complain about the one, and apparently it's a 9th grade half-credit course. Kids can't write checks.
Right.
You know, and whether it's taught or not, it's not retained. I know that part. It might be being taught, but it's not being retained, which means it's not being taught well.
Yeah.
You know, and so, like, you know, and especially in the evolution of society at large, all the technology coming in and everything.
Right.
Like, what are, you know, because I think those are the two questions to me. I guess the first question being, what are the jobs going to be? What is the 18-year-old's options in life?
Right.
At a 6-year-old right now, 12 years from now, like, what is that option going to be, and how is the school building towards that? And then the second part being, how do we get there? You know, and again, I think the general consensus is that we kind of have an old mess that we're just trying to keep contained.
Right.
And again, I know this is more state and federal level stuff, to be honest, because the state's the one that's going to have to really break it down and change a giant format, which the voucher may start the process on. But I don't know about that. That's a whole separate thing. I'm just trying to wrap my mind on what they're actually trying to sell in the voucher conversation. Which is a later conversation. But anyway, that was a lot to say. I don't...
and I would say that what I would hope all of our graduates have is a plan moving forward, how they want to move forward. I mean, it might not be college, right? But to have some idea of at least what their options are, what they can do, what they want to do. And I think part of the work we're doing with our CTE department now, we're starting younger in middle school. I think that's going to help identify kids to career pathways and things, help them align their interests with their skills. But yeah, I would say that I would want all of our kids to leave with some plan of what's next for them.
Right. Okay. So, all right, well, I mentioned earlier I want to talk about it because you are a current member. So what's going on with the ESSER funds right now? Like, there was a lot of talk back in October, November about plans for ESSER funds that they should be kicking in January, February. What's kicking in right now? Okay,
so you need to have Dexter Murphy on your show.
Is he running for office? Because I don't have time for anybody.
He's not running for office, but he can tell you everything you need to know about ESSER. He's our project manager for that, because there's a lot of you can't just use it on anything out there, right?
Right. And again, that was one of the things that was big discussion. Is like it has to be able to fall under category X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so, but I assume it'll be part of next year's budget as well.
Right. And you're going to see a lot of tutoring initiatives.
Because I'm paying out of pocket right now.
So you should be seeing a lot of tutoring initiatives. Definitely we'll probably see more of that again over the summer. And I don't know how. I get that would be a good Dexter Murphy question, but just specific things to address some of the key areas that we're worried about, like third grade reading and literacy. High school algebra is a good predictor of graduation rates. Just kind of drilling into some of those areas to make sure that it's hard to keep up with, especially algebra and math, if you're going virtual or you've been had a lot of disruptions. So I think you'll see a lot of those supports going toward that too, as well.
Okay, because I mean, again, like I think it's one of those. Like when it was happening, it was a hot topic and everybody was talking about it, and we moved on to the next topic and we've forgotten about that one. And so I'll see about getting a hold of Mr. Dexter there.
Because he can definitely, like I said, he's the project manager and he has the plan and what it can be spent for or not. And he's been presenting at school board meetings too. So if you start watching school board meetings, you're going to see more of those. You're going to see more of those ESSER presentations as well.
Yeah, I try to. I try to keep up with the different meetings going on. I'd love to be a well-oiled machine with sponsorship and stuff like that, and I can send somebody that I pay to go sit through a meeting instead of having to do it myself. Not to be hateful, but they're not the most entertaining exchanges around. Okay, so campaign-wise, like everybody's got their top 2 or 3 things on the campaign. Let's just do it this way. What's your campaign website?
What my campaign looks like? Well, we've had our campaign kickoff. I would say my priorities have not changed since the last time around. Increasing student achievement, better supports and better career and technical education programs, just helping move our kids forward and lifting them up. Those are the things I'm passionate about. Specifically, probably I'm most passionate about the career and technical education.
Right.
Just because I know that my children, I've seen a lot of their friends that would have benefited had they had better pathways.
We joke about it all the time. I remember when I was in school, it was laughable to go to want to be an electrician or something like that. It was like, you go to college. It's just
or a welder. So
which is part of why it's such a well-paying career right now, because nobody does it, and at some point the market will catch up, and the supply might catch up to demand, and the pay goes down. But we'll figure. That's the market at work. It'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Because I struggle the most with, and we joked about it a little bit earlier, but I struggle the most with trying to figure out what is within the actual authority of the school board. Because it's so complicated, because we have, it does, as much as the mayor and the commission don't really have anything to do with schools, they do have a good chunk to do with budgets, and then as well as some of the auxiliary stuff when it gets to infrastructure surrounding maybe a new school or something like that. But so much of what goes on in the schools is passed down from the state, that when like I said, I'm trying to figure out what issues actually really, really fall within the school board. And for the most part, it's general policy. It's how things are taught, not what is taught. And I think that's an important distinction that I don't think a lot of people get. I think that, I've already had a couple of people bring up some topics that don't make sense because it's outside the realm of the commission. Commissioner is more than school board, but at the same time, it's like when, I've been trying to write a jobs description for every office that's running right now. And I've been trying to figure out how to explain what a school board member actually does and has the authority to do versus some of the general perceptions that go on. So I guess the question in that is what is probably what are the top couple of things that you get a lot from that are outside of the school board authority that, people will come up to you requesting, asking, telling you that you need to do this as a school board member, that your response is some level of, I agree or disagree, but that's a Eddie Manis issue, that's a Gloria Johnson issue, or whatever.
Well, and a lot of that, the biggest part of my job is really directing people to the other people they need to be speaking with, right? Because it is, most of the time, things like that come up are not something that I have any direct control over, or any school board member does. The school boards are policy. We're there for policy, approving a budget, and hiring a superintendent, right? So that's the three roles of your school board.
Right.
So when you start talking into, parents getting mad because something specific happened at school, that's not really something I can control. We have one employee, that's the superintendent. Now, can I call the superintendent and say, hey, this is going on?
Right.
Yes. Or can I tell this parent, oh, well, you need to call this person.
Right.
But, I can't just go into the school and fix it for him, or, or upset over transportation or something like that. Like a lot of times it is just connecting people with others that can help them, because we are limited. Policy, like I said, policy, budget, and superintendent. Right.
And some of this stuff is a result of policy, and that makes sense as well. Okay, so one of the things that for this election cycle has been the most kind of eye-opening, I didn't think about it kind of things, is that Mr. Jackson running in for District 1. He was in there. He is a former school resource officer. And so he spent a lot of time talking about school resource officers, school safety issues, and stuff like that. And it was kind of a brilliant revelation to me. It's that is something that's fully within the school board's authority as far as setting policy for the actual police force of the school system. Because again, one of the things I think that is a common misconception, I think a lot of people think that it's KPD or the sheriff's office, which there are some in some of the schools, but every school has a school resource officer that is an employee of Knox County Schools, not the sheriff.
A school KPD. Security officer.
Right. What I call them, resource officer.
Yeah.
That set of policy, I think, is one that I think there is room to work on.
And I will say this. I mean, yes, and I think most of us have good relationships with those director level people over various departments as well. I mean, Chief Perryard, I know that I could call him and, just voice concerns or concerns that I've heard, and he will be very responsive to those, right? So, I mean, there is some relationship building there, and you can just have that discussion with people like that too, which helps. But then it does come back to policy,
right? Because I get like that was one to me that was kind of eye opening. I didn't really think about how much that is within the school board. If whatever door locking policy during school hours, whatever it is, that is within the school board. And so, when we have situations where bad things happen at the schools because somebody left and came back in, it then becomes a conversation about whether that was a failure of duty.
Well, you've got policies and you've got procedures, right? So, some of those also might be in the school procedures, which we are dictated by the superintendent and his team. Right. And then you've got your broader policies.
But I mean, the idea, the procedure is to execute the policy that's set forth. And so I think that's one that I think we as the public need to be more aware of, where it's a school security issue. That is school board, and we can talk to you about that, about setting policy to make our schools safer.
And maybe we need new policies. I mean...
Right, and I think that's I think that's something to talk about, because I think there's a lot of questions to I think that some of the pandemic and some of the other craziness that's going on compounds on top of normal stressors and stuff that are in the schools, making us have the worst couple of years we've had for incidents in school record. But I think there is room for improvement there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. We've covered so many things. So much fun. I don't know. Like I honestly don't know where to go from here. What do you got? Give me something. What do you want to talk about? The weather's amazing outside right now.
It is amazing. We can talk about the weather.
I got to figure out how to set up an outside studio.
So have your kids had a good school year?
It's been okay. My eldest, we've been we have a private tutor. We've been working with him to catch up, and there's been market improvement. But I don't know. I again, it's one of those. I feel real disconnected. Even though I've probably talked to more superintendents, or not superintendents, but more school board members, I probably have a better relationship with some of the teachers and some of my friends do with their parents and stuff like that, as far as I talk to them on some regular basis. I mean, one of the things to me that I would like to fix, like if it's going to be a request as a constituent, is we need to figure out a better communications program. It is, and I only have, between my two kids, I have 4 teachers. Because they're still in elementary school. We're not even talking middle school, high school craziness. But the ability for me, I think I have 2 apps on my phone, email, text, phone.
It's funny you should mention that, because we did our agenda set meeting. I did with the superintendent Monday, and we are switching to a new system. I think we use School Messenger. Right. We have a new system.
Yeah, none of my teachers have used that.
We have a new system up that the board will be voting on this month, and that was my question that I asked our communications director was, can we just do something? One app.
Well, the question. Right. Well, the follow up question to me is that we've tried this before on some different levels. What is where's the teeth in this new policy, essentially? Because one of the problems that has occurred in different versions in the past is either principals or administration in general didn't force teachers to use it, and so they're like, well, as the second grade teacher, I'm more comfortable using this thing, and it's like, well, great, right? And I'm glad you're comfortable with it, but I've got 2 other kids to keep up with. Help me out.
That was the question I asked. And I voiced, and I'll voice it again when we talk about it next week at the school board meeting, is we really need something that's consistent, that everybody uses, that's going back to your point, 3 or 4 apps on your phone doesn't work for most parents.
Right.
We need something with more, and there has to be software out there.
The question is, what's the point? Like, what's the point? Is the point to communicate with me as a parent so that I know what's going on, so that I can contribute or assist or do whatever it is that needs to be done? Or is the point, well, I got it out? Because if that's all the point is that that the information is available to you, it's like, well, okay, then I guess you succeeded in doing that. But
the point for me is to communicate with the parent.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that should be the goal everyone has, because I think, most of the issues that come up generally boil down to lack of communication or poor communication, or, and I've said that every year in the superintendent's evaluations, we have to do better communicating with parents, because a lot of times, a lot of the issues I hear about, it just boils down to just lack of communication.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, right.
So I'm acting and the way that I'm acting as a parent on the information that I have.
Right.
And that's not jiving with whatever's going on over here, because that's a different set of information there. And I mean, I agree with that. I think it's, and I think there's a little bit of an excuse in that I don't think Knox County government in general gets, I don't know, I'm not sure how to word this. I won't say the support they should, but I think I'm not sure if it is a supply or demand issue that local media doesn't cover it very well either. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's we as the constituency don't care when they do cover it, and so they stopped, or they stopped covering it and we stopped asking for it. I don't know. It's chicken or the egg kind of thing. I don't know. Because again, I like the Compass guys a lot. Yeah. They do pretty well at it. But I mean, like I was talking to Jesse just randomly a couple months ago, and he's like, I remember when I worked for New Sentinel, we had 3 people from the New Sentinel that would go to these meetings, whether it was commissioner, school board, or we had 3 or 4 from the same organization going to these meetings, and there would be a whole table of us, and then the TV guys would be there, and the other guys would be there. He's like, I go to, like, even in the height of the pandemic and craziness, he's like, I'd be 1, maybe 2 other people there than me. And it's like, that's,
I would say Jesse's probably the only media person I see consistently.
Right.
Jesse and Scott, I would agree with that. I mean, now things come up, then you might have everybody there.
Right. When there's people getting arrested, that's when WBR shows up.
Right. But, or people are mad about something and you have a large number of public forum speakers. But, generally, it's Jesse and Scott that you see out there. So I would agree with that.
And I mean, and again, like I would love to figure out how to ask that question on the broad spectrum. It's like, is this something that we as constituents don't care and will not watch if it's put in because again, Jesse and Scott, they do their thing and they do very well at it. But at the same time, it's not like they have a huge percentage of Knox County that is subscribing to them. And I think part of that's because they're a pay-for model instead of being an ad-based model, but they want to not do ads on purpose for that reason.
I will say, as a consumer, I love that. I love what they do, because I can go one place and see pretty much everything that's happening in Knox County government. So,
but I think that's the interesting thing to me, is that there's a hard line of the person that's willing to take the jump into paying out of pocket to get it, which I've crossed that line. But I think, like, the further I get in this show, like I realize how limited I built what I'm trying to do here, because there's not that many people paying attention. Right. And I think I've reached all the ones that do, but that's only like 1,000, 1,500 people. There's 500,000 people in this town. Yeah. And people, I think people are busy, and they're just living life and going in 1,000 different directions with their kids. And, a lot of times things aren't even on the radar until something is personally affecting their family or their kid. Right. So yeah, I would agree. And I don't know why that is. I don't know. But again, I think that's one of those. I think if we have a consistent user-friendly communication system inside the school system, not just my schools individually, but the school system at large. Like, I mean, I still can't figure out how to fix it, because like I get a phone call, text, and email every Friday with Bob Thomas's weekly whatever, which I also think it's kind of crappy that he does it on Friday afternoon. But
you're not the first to say that.
But regardless of that part, though, like I can't figure out how to get it to just send the email. Like I'm perfectly fine in reading it. I don't need the voicemail
or the text.
I don't need the text.
Yeah.
The text telling me to check the voicemail and that kind of stuff. And so I think we could solve part of the problem with getting that part streamlined into more user-friendly for the parents and the constituents at large that want to pay attention.
Right.
Because then we can start asking the question, is media failing here on this one thing because I get it directly from the source and the media's not telling me about it at all? Or they're not telling me about it because I already know it. I don't know. I think there's obviously a hole in the system, and that's what I'm trying to fill. But we talked way too much about that for me. Okay, so I've got my standard 5 questions.
Okay.
Let's get that done so I can make sure that I don't forget to do it. So I got to remember them because I lost my list.
I don't know that I know your standard 5 questions.
I've been
How
doing
could
them for.
I not know this?
I've been doing them for.
I've listened, but I don't remember what they were.
I've been doing them for everybody. Just this cycle. We just started this time around.
I should have paid more attention.
And so, like, because a lot of it's kind of gimme stuff. Like number one is, and this actually does. I think we already did answer it officially, but number one is, what have you run for prior to this? So we know that you've already ran at least once. Have you run for office prior to your first run?
No.
Okay. And then it's the future of politics for you. Is like, so you're going to term out this time. You got to take at least one.
There are no term limits for school board members yet.
Why can't we do this
But I can tell you that I will term out after this time. I will set my own term limit there. So
you heard it here first, people.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I should probably tell other people.
I think I have.
But so. You're done. This is it for school board for you. You do one more. You do 4 more years, and you call it
assuming I get
call that a career. Is there anything other after that? Maybe moving over to commission or moving into some state legislature at any level?
Not anything that I have planned on or even thought about.
Because I think I'm going to run for trustee next time. That's on my list of things to do. Sounds like an easy job.
There you go.
That's just my thoughts.
It pays well, I believe.
It's 131 plus.
Yeah.
It's way better than school board.
Yeah, right.
That's not a high bar to beat. All right. So number 2 is, what is your favorite ice cream?
Oh, I like Moose Tracks.
All right, Moose Tracks.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place to eat here in town? Probably in District 9.
Anywhere. I was going to say anywhere in District 9. I love that barbecue. Sono Taco, Roundup. We've got a lot of great places.
All right. So part of this is me trying to find places I don't know about. Yeah. So you got to narrow it down a little bit. Give me like one.
Well, you need to go to Love That Barbecue.
They
have great banana pudding too, as well as barbecue.
Barbecue place for banana pudding. Check. All right. So
both.
Number 4, and this actually probably is going to hit you a little better than some of the other people who asked this question too, because school board is partisan for the first time.
Yes.
At least in a while. Do you feel like, for me, the voter, that turning this race partisan? This is I'm making yours 2-part. This is usually a 1-parter, but changing school board to partisan races. Do you think that benefits me as a voter?
I don't think so.
Okay, expand. Tell me more.
Well, I mean, I think that it was better nonpartisan. I would prefer it to be nonpartisan. I don't have super strong feelings about it because just the district I'm in South Knoxville, right? I mean, I can knock on a door and people are going to want to know.
Right.
They'll ask me, do I support, say, the Second Amendment? It's like, well, I'm running for school board, but, so I would say that in my district, I think most people make a point to know. Right. But I do think that and I think we're already seeing some of this with the politics of it. I didn't even know Knox Dems had a Twitter account until school board races became partisan. Right. Right. So I think we're going to see a lot of that.
Well, okay. So just to kind of expand on the idea for a second. So like, do you think if you'd run as an independent that would handicap you in the district that you're in?
Yes.
Okay. Because usually I just ask it as an abstract.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm conservative. I've always voted that way. But I do think that there is some value in, especially with a school board race. Right. There's a lot of things that you need to meet in the middle on. A lot of compromise. I mean, I think everybody on the school board, regardless of their party affiliation, truly wants what's best for the students of Knox County. Right. I don't think that it's, and I don't even think with the way we vote on things, you see it necessarily falling down party lines
Well,
anyway.
and I think you hit it on the head as far as like when you go knock on doors and stuff like that, is that even when they weren't partisan, they were partisan.
Right.
People thought that way when they were going out to vote. They didn't get the cheat sheet of having the R or the D after the name.
But they could get it. They could go pull anybody's record and see how they voted in the primary.
But they was still a thought process for the voter. So that's a valid point.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big fan of it. I think it as a whole, because I think one of the things right now is a good example of it is for the most part, Biden's not doing a great job. And that's an agreed upon thing, even if you're on Team Biden. Mm-hmm. And so, but especially those independent voters, they're going to come into a county race here in Knoxville thinking that all D's are Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help. That doesn't help. I don't know. Blanket down on one of the Givens that's running for mayor. Mm-hmm. He's handicapped by what the national party is doing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help me as a voter make a decision, but people make decisions that way, and I think that's one of the problems.
Right.
All right. So you are a Republican, as you said, and you're running as a Republican, stuff like that. And so question 5 is my super challenging, hard question. Is I want you to tell me about somebody who is a known Democrat that you have either enjoyed working with or have, as far as their political career, whether it's directly close to you here in the county or a state or federal rep that runs as a Democrat that you've followed their career, you like what they're doing, that kind of thing.
Okay, that actually is easy for me.
Say that. It's a long way to say something nice about a Democrat.
Yeah, no, that one's easy for me. I enjoyed working with Rick Staples when his district kind of overlaps into South Knoxville when he was a state rep, and I really like working with Sam McKenzie.
Yeah. I need to get Sam in here. He's on my short list of people.
I love Sam. I mean, he's always just good to work with and very responsive, and that's an easy one. So
okay, that's cool. All right, so official plug time, where you can plug your whatever it is. Best way for people to get a hold of you or follow your campaign, get to know you a little bit more than we did in the show today.
Okay, well, they can find me I'm on Facebook, Twitter, my website, Kristi for Kids.
Is that the Kristi with the Y or the I?
The Y. But it was down yesterday. We had technical issues, so that will be coming up soon.
Kristi with a Y, FOR.
You can come to a school board meeting. Like everybody wants to run out and do that, right?
Sure.
A basketball game, a football game. Yeah. So
I did see South Doyle played.
Austin East last night. We lost. It was heartbreaking. It was close though. It was a close game. So yeah, it was good.
Good sports are good games are the important part. Wins and losses are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're important for other things.
We had a good season, so I'm proud of them.
I don't pay attention to any basketball, so I don't know. Are we coming to the tail end of basketball season?
That was semifinals, I think.
Oh, see,
night. So
see, I don't.
Yep.
I don't follow.
That was our last game of the season.
Sports.
So
I do. I take it back. I'm a sports fan, but I got to wait till they're pro. Yeah. Like I can't. Like people that are super into sports that are talking about high school prospects for some obscure college. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how do you keep up all that stuff in your brain? Like, I can't keep what I actually care about in my brain clearly enough. And they're talking about some kid that's a sophomore in high school that's the next superstar in the NBA or something like that. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You know better than me.
And we're starting soccer. We've got a good soccer team, too. So, guys' soccer's starting up now. So, catch me at a soccer game, maybe. Yeah. Just out and about.
More of the story is she's around.
I'm around, yeah. So I'm not hard to find, for sure.
I mean, she's responsive on Facebook. I've talked to her. That's how we talk when we set up meetings and interviews like this.
Right.
So I don't know. Got anything else? I think I've covered all the official bases I want to make sure I do before I forget things.
No, I just like to give a shout out to our current superintendent, Bob Thomas. Okay. 50 years is a long time to dedicate to an organization, and
he's been in Knox County Schools that whole time.
Yeah. That is a long time. That's you don't see a lot of that these days. So I think that
I said 5 years with my day job, and that's the longest I've worked in any single place.
Right, 50 years. Yeah, he'll say 49, but he's starting as 50. So I told him we could count it. We're going to count it as 50.
Get the pin for his lapel. It says 50, whether it's or not.
Yeah, I do. I do like to give a shout out to him because I think that's just pretty remarkable and not something you see.
Yeah, for sure. Especially realistically in a very generally well looked at position. People pay attention to who the superintendent is and what the superintendent does, and so to be there. I mean, he wasn't superintendent for 50 years, but to be there and put up with the stress and the level of that is pretty impressive.
And it's been, in the last 2 years were probably his worst 2 years. I mean, let's face it, just with everything.
It's everybody's worst 2 years.
Right.
I mean, I don't think. I think if you're a trash collector, is probably your worst couple of years on record.
I would agree with that.
Well, all right, I'm gonna get an outro and we'll call it a show.
Okay,
thanks,
great.
Kristi.
Thanks.
Kristi Kristy, everybody, at District 9. As I like to say, State of Tennessee Schools, Knox County Division. I think on the ballot it says like school board or something like that, but you get the point. We're almost in agreement at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com. That's where all the cool stuff is. Job description sheet, as well as my 22 election guide. The 22 election guide is the money piece. That's what I'm spending the most energy on. It's going to give you everybody that's currently in. I guess tomorrow there's the deadline to pull out, but I don't think anybody's doing that. So we'll give you everybody on there. I've got links to their show with me. I'm working on getting everybody's links to their website or Facebook page or whatever as well. Links to KGIS, links to Knox County Election Commission. Figure out what your polling location is. Some of those are changing right now, so pay attention to that if you're in one of the districts or precincts rather that's getting adjusted. But know what district you're in, who you're allowed to vote for, who's going to be on your ballot. I'm sure Chris Davis is going to start kicking out sample ballots here pretty soon as well. And then go to your favorite podcast provider and like us and follow us there, please. Subscribe, tell your friends about us, all that kind of good stuff. We're going to keep working through it. I got a mayoral candidate coming in later today. I got another mayoral candidate next week, so that's what we do.